Dolphin fans, the Miami Dolphins are currently on their bye week, but that doesn't mean there's still analysis that can't be done. So I'm going to first start with analyzing the games that have happened. Obviously, the Dolphins offense has been extremely lackluster, especially without Tua. Tua has played a game in 3 quarters practically. First game, the offense was nothing until kind of the second half they got going. And then against the Bills, they were not able to get anything going. But I want to make note that I think they didn't perform against the Bills, but that doesn't mean there wasn't plenty of opportunities that honestly the play design had that was just poorly executed. And then poor play calling in terms of the fact that Mike McDaniel was shying away from the run, which obviously we saw him finally do against the Patriots. And that's the kind of play calling they need to have going forward to be able to beat those teams, is to be willing to pound the rock on a down in, down out basis. So hopefully Mike McDaniel will finally stick to that. And then without Tua, you kind of got a glimpse of how valuable he is as a player. It kind of made you feel a little more at ease about paying him in terms of how good of a player he is. Obviously the health is a big concern, his inability to stay healthy. Hopefully it's just the last time it happens, but you never know. Obviously we don't know exactly the details of everything. I assume he's going to be back though. We have finally seen the growth from McDaniel of sticking with that inside run game that we were clamoring for once Tua went down. It took him 2 games to get to, so that's not necessarily the best sign, but at least you're seeing growth. And once again, I think if the Dolphins come back with Tua and they finally unlock their run game in terms of the play calling, because I think the run game's always been pretty solid, but in terms of the sticking to it, McDaniel struggled with. But if we're building that run game, you insert Tua back into it, I think that's going to fix a lot of the passing game because of how timing based it is. It is perfectly catered to Tua's skill sets. So it's funny when people want to analyze quarterbacks and be like,
can he do the long ball home run situations? We've yet to really see it.
I'm not sold on Tua being able to get them the football once defensive pressure's amped up, once elite defense is getting their face.
He can be a top 10 quarterback to me.
Just don't tell me he is yet.
Tua struggles pretty much against all the top tier quarterbacks in the AFC, with the exception of Lamar Jackson. It's a competition the likes of Josh Allen. You gonna answer the call or not?
Against Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow. The brothers 1 and 10.
Go tier 3. They describe it as a quarterback that is a legitimate starter but needs a heavier running game and or defensive component to win. A lower volume drop back passing offense suits him best. And number 15, first quarterback in tier 3 is Uno. You know him as Tua Tagovailoa.
There's different skill sets. In playing quarterback, I'd rather them play quarterback, be able to play within the timing of the offense, be accurate on time, and all of that. So that's Tua's superpowers, and we kind of saw firsthand how valuable that is. And that potentially people took it for granted, people thinking anyone could come in this offense and perform, and that was just blatantly false. So keys to getting back on track for the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, we're 2-3 after 5 games, which is not up to expectations. Build off the run game performance, and then even with Tua, continue to build off of that. If that means we run the ball 50 times a game with Tua, so be it. And then when we need to pass. And obviously Tua is better suited than any quarterback on our roster. Clean up the stupid mistakes, special teams, penalties, all of it. Primarily an offensive and special teams thing. The defense penalty-wise has been pretty clean. Not getting set before the snap, the special teams blunders, where there was a bad snap by Blake Ferguson, a bad kick by Jason Sanders, a false start on, it's just everything special teams wise has been bad. And there's not even one clear person you can point the finger at. Like a missed kick, that's on Jason Sanders. That is not on Danny Crossman. A bad snap, that is on Blake Ferguson, not Danny Crossman. But believe me, Danny Crossman has his fair share of blame with the other penalties and mistakes that have happened on the special team side. And I obviously hope the passing game returns to normal with Tua. No reason to expect it won't because of what he showed us. The only thing is there might be a little bit of rust, which is, unfortunate part. Kind of why I wish we didn't put him on IR so he can at least practice prior to his window opening and not kind of the week before the game. But nonetheless, I think it maybe takes 2 weeks for him to get back in rhythm. Hopefully not. Who knows? And then defense needs to just keep building off of what they're doing. They're playing very well, especially considering the circumstances. People want to give the defense a little shit because of who we've played, but when you consider the awful positions our offense and special teams have put them in, they've still executed at a high level. I will say the pass rush does concern me, especially with Jalen Phillips going down. We don't fully know about Bradley Chubb's status and what he's going to look like when he gets back. So one big thing is if the Dolphins continue to win, so kind of get hot right before the trade deadline, maybe get a game above 500 or at 500, I'm pounding the table for them to acquire Jadeveon Clowney, who is on the Panthers, who obviously are not going to be good. Clowney is a perfect scheme fit as he was with Baltimore last year and put up great numbers He's good against the run. Obviously, he has his pass rushing upside. It's a obvious answer to help at the edge rusher position. So I hope that the Dolphins look to acquire Clowney at the deadline if they continue to win games. Obviously, if the season doesn't look like it's turning around, then we should be the sellers at the deadline. But obviously, only time will tell and the results of these future games. Key players returning. So people we expect back, hopefully within this season, that help impact the rest of this way. Obviously, Tua Tagovailoa, he's projected back week 8 versus the Cardinals, so he's going to miss this upcoming Colts game, and then he should ultimately be back, hopefully. If he's back, that's kind of what the season hangs on. If he's not back by the Cardinals game, I would call it fair to throw in the towel on the season, unless this offense continues to thrive without him. I highly doubt that's a thing. River Craycraft, his timetable is unknown. It was a shoulder injury. I've heard nothing about it, but he'd be a good person to get back. He knows this offense like the back of his hand, kind of help limit some of those mistakes from our receivers. But having Odell Beckham Jr. back actually helps with the wide receiver 3 position. So it's not a desperate need for him to be back, but we all love River and know the skill set and value he brings to this offense. Isaiah Wynn, similar to Craycraft, that man's been out for a year now with, I think it was a quad injury, but timetable has not been known. So who knows when he'll be back, and even if he's back, how good he'll be, considering it seems to be a pretty severe injury since he's been out since the Eagles game last year. And then last, but the biggest one in my opinion, Bradley Chubb. Timetable's unknown. I'm going to guess a month from now, so I'm going to project him back literally. So I'm filming on October 11th. I project him back November 11th against the Rams. That's a month from now. ACLs usually take 9 to 12 months. He obviously got hurt, I think it was New Year's Day. So it's been 10 months. So you expect maybe another month, 11 months, and he'll be back. Once again, there's no way of knowing. Each player's different. He's obviously suffered multiple lower extremity injuries, which affect probably your recovery and how you feel. So if he comes back and he returns to form, like, that's such a huge get. I'm not necessarily anticipating that just because the severity of the injury, it's not easy to come back from it. Even Jalen Phillips returned from the Achilles. He wasn't himself. Like, he still needed to, he wasn't fully back into form yet. So it'd be a lot to ask Bradley Chubb to come back and immediately beat Bradley Chubb, unfortunately. But you never know, and that'd be phenomenal. But that's why I am pounding the table for the Dolphins to acquire Jadeveon Clowney if they continue to win games. But record prediction for the rest of the way. So we've obviously got 5 games down. We have 12 more to go. There's a lot of good teams on our schedule, and there's a lot of winnable games. I did a record prediction. I did it 2 times and kind of tweaking with it. I have the Dolphins going 9-8, and that's my optimistic outlook. That's assuming Tua comes back and kind of the offense gets back onto form. Obviously, if that doesn't happen, it's going to look a lot worse. But I had us going 9-8, and it's quite, in my opinion, it is realistic. If those things do happen, the Dolphins can very well go 9-8. That had us losing to all of the obvious teams. So like we play the 49ers, the Texans. Like, ultimately, the Dolphins likely are going to lose those games, but we've seen it week in, week out so far this year. Games you expect to go one way don't go that way, so who knows with this parity of the NFL. But the Dolphins do have a lot of winnable games coming up, and then they have a tough stretch of teams. So it's just going to be interesting to watch. Once again, I have optimism again based off the commitment to the ground game. You start getting Tua back, you definitely have something to build off of because this roster is extremely talented from all the stars that we have across the board, and it doesn't look like they've given up. So that gives me hope. I believe in this team. Once again, just kind of depends on Tua coming back, being himself, and then just kind of continuing to build off that run game. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Comment your thoughts down below. What do you think the Dolphins' record is going to be at the end of the season? And by the way, 9-8 was good enough to make the playoffs because of how the AFC is. I forgot to note that. The AFC is wide open, so 9-8 likely get the team into the playoffs. We're going to be competing with the likes of the Steelers, the Broncos, Chargers, Jets, teams like that. So the Dolphins are in it. They just obviously need to get better, and hopefully they're able to do so. So appreciate you guys for watching. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow. And until next time, fins up.